Hi everybody, I'm Joshua Davies and I'm going to be talking about Imerge Pro, which is FXhome's new piece of imaging software. Technically, it's the world's first non-destructive raw imaging compositing tool, and you might say, what does that mean exactly? Well, it's a bit like a cross between, say, Lightroom and Photoshop in that it gives you loads of cool tools to be able to process your images, but then what you can actually do is start layering them up, green screening, masking them and compositing them to create entirely new images. So now in Imerge, if we actually look at the image, the perspective is not that realistic, but we were trying to create something a bit more dynamic and make it look like there was a lot of depth and some action going on in the image. First of all, if we look at the background, the clouds, well, this is two separate shots. We were very lucky in Scotland. It was extremely cloudy when we were shooting. So for this part of the scene, it was ideal. Unfortunately, for the next part, which is the mountains, it was far from ideal. We actually had to take a bunch of different safety shots. And in Imerge, we put them all together, as you can see, layering these up with different mountains from different areas to create what was a more interesting background. The other thing that we needed to add was some additional clouds, although you can barely believe it from these photos, and some light as well. So we brought in some light rays coming in from the right to the left, and then we added some clouds up in the mountain just to make the composite a little bit more natural. Now these are all different elements. Some of them we took on location, other ones we actually just got off royalty-free websites and things like that. What Imerge also allows us to do is to have grade layers. These allow us to just apply a set of filters to all of the images below that layer. And what we have here is the first of those shots, which is actually the nearest to the shot that they used in the film. We have a bunch of masks set on here, so I'll just switch those off. And you can see this final shot. And while this shot is great, it doesn't really have the elements that we wanted for this sort of dramatic, ultra widescreen composition. So what we did is just mixed in other elements when we were there. So let me just switch our masking back on, and then I'll switch on some of the other layers. So we also have this layer to the right, which again, we've used a gradient mask and a vector mask to kind of feather out at the top. Another photo taken in the same location, but on the left, we just tilted the camera 20 or 30 degrees to the other side. Again, we're using a mask to kind of mask out what is effective and what doesn't work. And then we've extended the road. Now this was a little trick. So the road was very narrow, but also we wanted to shift the Aston Martin over to one side a bit unrealistically just to create the layout that we wanted. So I've taken the road, I've duplicated it, and that's going to sit underneath the Aston Martin. So you're not going to see this seam that we have on the edge here. So we took the best mountains that we had and we started adding those in. First of all, here on the right, again, we're using numerous masks. Imerge has fantastic masking tools, whether they're gradient masks, color masks, vector masks. And then on the left here, we added these two as well. These are a different location, but I just thought they looked really cool. Now the main thing we need to do after adding these in is try and blend them all together. Part of that is done with filters on the actual layers, but what we also added is some different elements to just tie this all together. As you can see at the moment, the mountains are kind of popping out against the background. So first of all, as I said before with the clouds, we wanted the light to come in from the right and sort of illuminate across to the left. So first of all, what we added is some light rays going across from the right of the image across to the left to just sort of separate them so that the left side of the image is generally darker than the right. We added this image of light rays, and then we just did a gradient mask on it and a bit of a blur, and now you can see that actually the mountain is blending more seamlessly with the background. But still on the left here we have a few issues. So we actually added some clouds. This was again some stock footage. I believe it was from our great friends at Action VFX, just a frame of their brilliant stock put on the top here, and we're using a bunch of different things like remove color matting, which is a great tool. We're doing a color overlay on it. We're using a luminance key to extract it, and then we're doing some curves on the alpha channel just to boost it up a bit. These are the great tools that you have inside Imerge to do this kind of work, and they're all dynamic, so you can alter them at any time. Every decision is reversible. All of this is live and can be edited at any time. We then felt that maybe in the middle we needed a little bit of cloud as well, so we added another element, again from Action VFX. So the next thing was the car. If we actually look at the car, It's cut out pretty cleanly here, it doesn't have any shadows, but the original image of the car, if I disable all of our masks and I disable all of our filters, well, this is the image you can see. We had a propped up green screen, I'm there behind holding it up, but actually we have a bunch of green cast on the car, we have a bunch of color cast on the car from the sky, and then we just have some horrible edges to work out with masking as well. So the first thing we need to do is get rid of the green background. We have multiple ways of applying masks, just the general application of masks, which is the apply setting, so that we can retain those areas that were extracted by the chroma key. So this is all well and good, and we've got our car in here, but it doesn't look great, it's standing out like a sore thumb. We then basically created a selection of different shadow effects to try and build this back up. The way we did this is to look at the shadow on the actual car and then draw some masks that basically recreated that shadow. So firstly, we have a very, very diffuse shadow, and then they become more and more sharp as we go up these layers. And you get what is a very realistic shadow because it's copied from the original shadow. So we then have a couple of other tricks that we can play here. Firstly, we thought we would add some tire marks where the car comes skidding to a halt. So when we were shooting the car, it actually ran over a studio floor, which was very near white. So we took a photo of that tire mark, and it's the actual tire mark of the car that we're compositing on here. And we're using our quad warp tools, we're using curves tools, and the blending method to create something that looks like it's actually applied to the ground. Last of all, some of the windows kind of lost their reflections, and you couldn't see them so well from the keying. It's done a very, very good job, mind, but we actually have a whole window that wasn't being chroma keyed at all. It had no green behind it. So instead we added some of that actual tint back into all the windows and a bit of the shine just manually using the tools inside Imerge Pro. So now we have the car in the background, and the next thing we did is add another adjustment layer where we can do just a little bit of a tweak of a grade before we add our models in. As you can see, what we've actually tried to do is really vignette in the edges. This is so as the models cross that line, they're going to pop out that little bit more. We've also just tweaked some of the exposure settings and the vibrance of the background. It was maybe a little bit too vibrant in some areas. So first we have Dinner Jacket Guy, whose name was actually Steve, a really nice guy, but we had to use a separate photo for him than we did for Laura because we're creating this really distorted perspective. So if I switch off the masks here on Steve, you can see they're being used as kind of a garbage mat. But you can see we had him directly up against the green screen. I'll just switch off all of these effects here. So here's the green screen. It's good, solid green, but we're actually applying several different effects here. So firstly, we have our chroma key, and then we sharpen him up. He was a little bit soft. Then we did a white balance, then a curves, then an exposure, and then the saturation editor to take out some blue in the image. So I'll just put those all back on. Now this is the great power of Imerge. That allows you to have all of these dynamically accessible. So if I wanted to say, go into one of these and let's make it more vibrant. Well, we actually have vibrance and saturation. The difference between these two is that vibrance is going to try and leave the skin tones alone. But if we just stick up the saturation, you'll see everything is being dynamically altered on that layer. And this doesn't matter if it's a layer at the top of your stack or at the bottom of your stack. I'll just undo that because I've made it look like he went on a terrible holiday. There we go. Next is Secret Agent. This was Laura. This is a separate shot, and we've used the arm as the transition point here. So we've got some fine flyaway hair, which is always hard, but we have the raw capabilities of Imerge bringing in all of that data, and it makes all of our keying that much better. We actually, using masking, added some light onto her hair, and this brings me to one of the other great things about Imerge, is that all of your effects can have their own masks. So in other tools you might have to duplicate this layer, then cut out the bit that you want to brighten up, and then brighten up that area just to have it sit on top of the other layer. All of the effects inside Imerge, however, can have their own masks. So I could be altering her eye color, the color of her lips, the color of her dress, and the color of her hair, just using one layer with different effects, with different types of masking on them, and it's really, really powerful. We'll no doubt do a tutorial in the future which covers all the best settings for all things green screen, but Imerge Pro does this job better than any other product I know. Lastly, just to add a bit of sheen to the image, we added some lens dirt and some sort of small flecks to make it look maybe that it was a bit misty out when we were taking this image, or it was a bit rainy. Again, I think these elements are from our great friends over at Action VFX, so do go and check them out. They have some amazing stock. Whether you're into photography or video, there's still content there that's great for you. And then we have our final grade layer, which is really about tying everything together. This has some of my favorite tools in it. So yeah, we just put a zoom blur over the edges just to sort of fade them out a little bit. And then we have the clarity tool. Now the clarity tool is one of my favorite tools in the whole product. It allows us to add structure and also add sort of sharpness to the image. So when you're adding these, it's going to be able to boost local contrast, or it's going to create sharpening without creating horrible artifacts. And it just allows us to sort of make the image a little bit more punchy than it would otherwise be. Then we've got tone coloring. This is a fantastic tool for all of you color graders out there. It allows you to create hundreds of different looks, and the UI is really intuitive, so we'll be bringing this to our other products as soon as we possibly can. But all I've done here is the highlights, which is the white dot. I've pulled them towards the oranges. The dark points I've pulled towards the sort of cyans, and then I've also then just pulled the entire color tonal range away, hence below the line, from the yellowy greens to create a sort of more bluey, tealy look to the image. Then we've also taken the saturation editor here. This allows you to pick areas of saturation and increase them or decrease them just by using a graph. It's much easier than most other tools. And here, yeah, we're just boosting the reds up. So this is particularly picking out the reds of a dress and around this necklace here. Lastly, of course, a vignette. That was just a quick overview of how we created this image inside Imerge Pro. Please comment down below about any tutorials or techniques you want us to cover. We're going to have some pro photographers, including Simon Buck, who took that photo, come on the channel, tell you about their techniques, and also tell you how they use Imerge Pro to make better images. We're also going to have the guy that created the software, Ricky Lowe's, come and tell you about it, straight from the source, how this technology works. If you like the sound of any of that, please do subscribe to our channel and make sure you click that little bell icon, otherwise you won't be updated if we put up new content. Thank you for watching, and we really hope you enjoy Imerge Pro.